Hello Year 4, and this is today's learning journey lesson on Wednesday the 24th of February. So for the next 2 weeks we are looking at the question, can characters' feelings be affected by their environment? And we're doing this by looking at the book The Promise. Now before we start, actually, can you make sure you've got something to write on, because you're going to need to make some notes as we go along. Okay, so if you haven't got that, pause and go and grab something to write with. Okay, so today we're going to look at using adventurous words and phrases to describe a setting. Okay, and we're going to start by looking at the way the setting has been described in The Promise. Okay, so I've taken that paragraph from The Promise, which is describing the setting, and there's the picture that accompanies that bit of the text. Okay, you can see the character down here, the tall buildings, and it all looks very grey. So let's see the kind of words that the author has used. So let's see how she's described the setting. When I was young, I lived in a city that was mean and hard and ugly. Its streets were dry as dust, cracked by heat and cold, and never blessed with rain. A gritty yellow wind blew constantly, scratching round the buildings like a hungry dog. Nothing grew, everything was broken, no one ever smiled. Okay, so to create this description, authors use obviously a lot of adjectives which are describing words, and they use similes as well to create a picture in your mind to compare it. So a simile is when you compare something to something else. Okay, so I just want you to have a look again at this, maybe pause it in a minute and just see if you can identify where the author has said something is like something else, because that will be your simile, and then have a look for all the descriptive language, all the adjectives that she has used. Okay, so you just want to pause and make a note of those. Okay, so let's have a look then at what you found, because we're going to use this to help us write a description in a moment. Right, I'm just going to come out because I want to use the highlighters. Okay, so first of all then, a simile. So when we compare something, we say something is like something else, or compare something to something. So let's have a look at what she has used. When I was young, I lived in a city that was mean and hard and ugly. Its streets were dry as dust. So we could say that's a simile, isn't it? It's comparing the streets to dust, that they're very dry. Cracked by heat and cold and never blessed with rain. A gritty yellow wind blew constantly, scratching round the buildings like a hungry dog. Okay, so she's compared there the wind, the gritty yellow wind, to scratching like a hungry dog. Okay, so we can highlight that. There's a nice bit of description. Oh, will that straighten up? Yep, that's good. Buildings like a hungry dog. Okay, so those are the similes that have been used, and you can see that that creates the picture, doesn't it? Like the wind, a scratchy wind, a very dry wind. Because she's already said about the paths, the streets not being blessed with rain. So you imagine a very dry wind, very scratchy, like a hungry dog. So it's kind of like a desperate. The dog is really scratching as it's very hungry. Okay, and adjectives then, so some describing words. So she describes the city, okay, as mean, hard, and ugly, hasn't she? She's also described the streets as cold and never blessed with rain. She describes the wind as gritty and yellow. Everything is broken. No one ever smiled. And here she's used 3 short sentences in a row, which also, you know, emphasises the point that it's not a very nice place. Nothing grew. Everything was broken. No one ever smiled. Not a very welcoming place, is it? Okay, so here we've got an idea then of descriptive language and the adventurous vocabulary that we could possibly use. Okay, so what I would like you to do now, I'll go back to this, is I'm going to show you some pictures. Okay, so this is where you're going to need to write some things down. Let me go on to there. So I've got 3 city pictures here. And I just want you to have a good look and see if you can write some describing words, any like phrases, short sentences to describe any of these things. You can do something for all of them, or you could just concentrate on one of the pictures. So pause, have a good look, and write down your ideas. Okay. So I've also got, to help you, if I go on to the next page, I've got some descriptive words from the Descriptosaurus. And if you look, you've got words that you could use to describe a city, which is what we're doing. So active, bustling, noisy, busy, clean, dirty, windy. Traffic, loud, congested, snarled. Buildings, old, shabby, run down, crumbling, modern, futuristic, sleek, towering, squat. Okay, so squat means small, short. The buildings, are they made of brick, stone, marble, glass, steel? Are they covered in graffiti? If there's any monuments or statues, stone, copper, carved, ancient, moss covered, faded, green, bronze. The sidewalk, which is American for the path, the pavement. Concrete, cement, slick, cracked, tidy, littered, swept. The paint, fresh, weathered, peeling. The signs, neon, weathered, worn, bright, welcoming, flashing. I know there's one picture there that's got the neon signs in. The buses, the cars, the taxis, are they belching, crawling, speeding, honking, waiting, screeching? The people, are they hurried? Are they hurrying? Bundled, like all close together, smiling, frowning, eager, or rushed? Okay, so I'm going to put a copy of this actually into the class portfolio. So there'll be a copy of these descriptive words that you can use. So if you want to make a note of these, not all of them, just some of them that you think that you would be able to use. Okay, I'm going to go back to the picture in a moment, so make sure you pause it. But like I said, this will be uploaded into the portfolio or on the class page as well, so you've got a copy of them to look at. Okay, so using those words to describe the picture, I want you to then have a go, put in all your descriptive words into a few sentences like this. Okay, so for example, I could have taken like looking at the path in this one, and then I'll use some of these words to help me. I chose slick and concrete, and also the buildings towering. I used those words, so I was looking at this picture in particular and I wanted to try and write a simile. So I could write something like for here, so slick concrete paths slipped between towering buildings. So I'm going to go back to this one. So slick concrete paths slipped between towering buildings. Now I want to compare it to something, so I'm thinking of something that would like wind and slither between paths, so I'm going to compare it to a snake. So I could write a sentence: slick concrete paths slipped between towering buildings like a snake. Okay, and that would be a simile that I've used. So I would like you to have a go at just describing one of these cities. So you've got to, hopefully you'll have wrote down some words and some phrases, and then put them into sentences where you've got some really good description. Okay, so I will leave this page on so you've got a model of what it will look like. Okay, so you can use some of your words that you wrote down, your descriptive phrases, to write your paragraph, and then when you're done you can upload that into Class Dojo as a photo, or I know some of you can actually type, can't you? You can type on the Class Dojo and send me that, so that will be even better. Okay, and remember, words and that to help you I will upload separately as well as have them there. So you'll be using your notes that you've made to write some sentences that include some similes and some really good description of one of those town scenes, one of those city scenes. Okay, right, so if you want to just pause on this so you can help, and then I'm going to go. Okay, bye for now then.